What do you give up when you install the MoTeC in your 991? Well, let me go through the list. You give up, and then also, and then there's that other thing. You give up nothing. Hey guys, Nathan Cicio, Cicio Performance. We're coming to you with another 911 Turbo MoTeC video. This particular video, there's not going to be a ton of data in. Really what we're going to talk about is just what do you give up by installing the 991 plug-and-play MoTeC kit. So just to make that clear, this kit completely replaces the factory ECU. And it goes right in the slot and plugs in where the factory ECU is. What a lot of people don't understand is that doesn't mean it completely replaces every module that controls the car. What doesn't it replace? Well, it doesn't replace the body control module that does things like roll your windows up and down and turn on your air conditioning. It doesn't replace your TCU, your transmission control unit. What does it do? It talks to the TCU, it talks to the body control module, and it interacts with those items and lets them do their own thing, lets them work independently with a little bit of information from the MoTeC itself. So that's information that's good to know. You know, if you don't understand that, or you don't understand what a standalone ECU is, that's what it's doing. It's the engine control unit that is getting replaced, and the other modules that control the car are still there, and just glean from information that the ECU gives it. So what do you give up? You give up nothing at all. All the factory functionality works. Air conditioning, you know, cruise control. There isn't a thing that you give up with installing this. Some people will even say, well, you probably give up drivability. It's probably more harsh. That's absolutely the complete opposite of the truth. Let me explain to you why. If you're going to put a MoTeC in a 991 Turbo or Turbo S, most likely it has some upgraded parts, correct? Most likely it has maybe a clutch, maybe it has axles, maybe it has cams, maybe it's got a built motor with different compression. There's no telling what it might have. In those aftermarket or with those aftermarket parts, you need something to control those items, those parts in the car. So stuff like your clutch. Okay, let's say you go upgrade your clutch to a Dodson 10-plate clutch. While the factory ECU is super adequate with controlling the factory clutch, it is not necessarily extremely adequate in controlling a vastly upgraded clutch. It works, it shifts okay, but it doesn't do what it could do with more control. What the MoTeC gives you is all of that control. So yes, if you have a tuner that doesn't know sick 'em from come here, as my dad used to say, you can let that sit in for a second if you'd like, then yeah, the car's gonna drive worse than the factory ECU, because the factory ECU has all of these little things built into it that the lovely people in Germany built into it, and then, you know, Cobb or some tuning software gives us the ability to just adjust certain little aspects of it, where the MoTeC gives you control over all of it. It lets you control and manipulate all the settings. So if you really know what you're doing, you can make the car do anything you want, drive any way you want, shift in the way you want, roll out in the way that you want. There's really no limitation to what you can do. You can have the car shift cut and pop on shift. You can have the car not shift cut and pop on shift, and just torque reduction so that it's a little bit smoother. You can do that based on load. You can have the rollout super aggressive if it's a person that really likes to just start rolling. You can take the rollout and back it out if somebody wants the clutch to slip a little bit. You can do all kinds of things like that. So drivability, does it get sacrificed? None, zero, in my opinion. I think that this car drives better than a upgraded stock ECU car. Again, I'm not hating on the factory ECU. I'm not saying it's not very capable. I'm not saying you can't make 1,200 horsepower and it work. I'm not saying you can't make 900 horsepower and it work. But the MoTeC gives you the functionality that if you really know how to tune, you can really tailor the car to the client's needs and make the thing drive and run amazing. Just as we're kind of illustrating as we're driving, you haven't seen any crazy lurching or jerking. We've had to stop for a flagger. We had to stop for a semi that just pulled out in front of us. You don't see any, crazy, what is this car doing and why is it doing it things. Why? Because it's not doing any of that. So that's a very important kind of note to make. You don't have to drive around any deficiencies. And you can make it as firm or as soft as you'd like when it comes to your kind of like the visceral feeling of you driving. So I feel like that's really important to note. I know it kind of sounds too good to be true, but I literally can't think of anything that you do give up. There is one thing that just because somebody is going to call me out on this in a year or two, based on the fact that it's a motorsports ECU, we decided with MoTeC, mostly MoTeC decided, but we'll pretend that I decided to, that the adaptive cruise control function wasn't something we wanted to support. Why didn't we want to support that? Because, well, there's some liability in the fact that the ECU is just driving the car down the street for you, and or if a car pulls out in front of you, that it's going to hit the brakes. We had the car completely working and doing that, but we just decided that wasn't a feature that we wanted to add back in there. So that is one item. One is the adaptive cruise control on your 911, if it is equipped with adaptive cruise control, as of right now, does not work. Regular cruise control works perfectly fine. So I have to give that disclaimer out there because I don't want to tell you that you give up absolutely nothing. I think there was something like 19% of 991s and turbos and turbo S's that were optioned with adaptive cruise control. If you have that and you absolutely love it and you can't live without it, then probably don't buy a MoTeC. But also, if you can't live without adaptive cruise control, I probably wouldn't build a 1,000+ horsepower Porsche either. So anyway, so that's kind of the long and the short of that. Again, being able to tailor the car to your exact needs, to the customer's needs, how you want the thing to shift and what you want it to do is really fun. And then, of course, the power can be tailored any way you want. Let's talk about vehicle integration just a little bit. Vehicle integration is, we opted to not, as of right now, do a rolling anti-lag function. We can do it in the future. We will probably roll it out, but based on the fact that there's no super great place other than the cruise control stock to kind of activate your rolling anti-lag, especially in a .1, as of right now, we've opted to not do that. However, the cars brake boost so properly that there's no way in the world a rolling anti-lag could ever be any faster than how fast these things come up if you roll into them on a brake boost. So that's a feature that we have not written into the sub. So as I was saying in the video, these things really brake boost super well. Unlike almost any car that I've ever actually been in that come out brake boosting. And I think probably the reason is you got a lot of weight in the rear, and the turbos in our turbo kit just come up super fast, and it's actually pretty incredible. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of put the video camera just on the boost gauge up here. So if you can see the boost gauge here, we're cruising down the road. Oh, let me put it in. We're cruising down the road 60 miles an hour in third gear, making zero boost, 61 miles an hour. So this gauge isn't going to go up to where it could go up to, but if you just roll under the brake a little bit here, and and roll the throttle.
Okay.
So what this thing will do is, like that was just illustrating, is 3,500, 4,000 RPM. You just roll into the brake and the throttle at the same time, and the thing will make 30 pounds of boost. And when you drop the hammer, wow, does the thing rock and roll. So it's really, really fun and really awesome, and one of the reasons that these cars can be so fast on the street is they just come out, and they come out hard, and it's hard to keep up with them. So it just gives you a baby illustration of how that's possible, just driving down the highway in third gear. So pretty cool. Vehicle integration on your Dot 2, you have your kind of sport plus, you know, your normal, your sport plus, and your individual settings here on the steering wheel. Those are your map switchers. What can you hook to those things? You can hook boost to those things. You can hook the aggressiveness of your downshifts and your upshifts to those things. You can hook throttle feel to those items. There's lots of different things you can assign. So basically you have 4 map slots to be able to utilize. What we do here at Cicio Performance is we'll give you a low map, a medium map, a high map, and then maybe a valet map. And we'll integrate all the functionality of what we can do in each map into each slot. So your low map, it's probably the map you want to drive around town on. You know, maybe the torque reduction between shifts is just a little bit smoother. Maybe, and of course the boost is lower. Maybe when you roll into the throttle, it doesn't cut quite as hard, doesn't pop quite as hard. And then your medium one is more aggressive, and your high even more aggressive. We can also tailor some portions of traction control to those as well. So that's your full vehicle integration. Now, with a MoTeC, you can buy secondary switches, roll dials, and be able to control all kinds of different things. Like if you want a traction control to be less or more sensitive on a dial, you could do that and mount it in the center console or whatever and run that to the MoTeC, tap it in, and you'd be able to adjust that as the customer on the fly, aside from any of these vehicle integration situations. But right now, the vehicle integration stuff works super well, and for most customers, that's all you're gonna need. If you were a road race guy or something like that, maybe you'd want some more functionality, and that can be added. But this is all just plug and play. It works, and you don't have to worry about anything at all. So that's kind of the vehicle integration as far as map switching is concerned. And like I said, everything else just works. Your blinkers, your stereo, your, you know, everything else is as normal. 100% a well-tuned MoTeC 1200 horsepower 911 is a daily driver friendly car. It's my favorite car to drive. So I wouldn't hesitate building a car and then utilizing it as much as you would desire, whether that be just a weekend car or whether it be running the thing 7 days a week. It is supremely comfortable and drives absolutely incredibly. So I guess that's kind of the wrap up on the vehicle integration side of things. What do you give up? Adaptive cruise control, if your car was optioned with adaptive cruise control. Nothing else. Every other factory comfort and feature remains in the car with the MoTeC plugged in and working. So, all right. That's probably more information than any of you wanted to know. But hey, I'd rather over-inform you than just try to cram something down your throat. And plus, it makes for good watching if you're bored. So, hope you all enjoyed it. We're going to continue to put these things out, some of them more technical, some of them less technical, some of them driving the car, some of them standing in front of the car. You know, we're going to try to do fun, exciting things. So we hope you subscribe, we hope you tell your friends, and we hope you continue to watch. So thanks so much. Until next time.